Editor Newware here. Listen, you guys, these video interviews are long. And to be fair, all of them are long. I mean, I've had ones that were an hour to 4 hours long. So I'm breaking them up. However, I couldn't tell you how many videos this particular interview is going to be in, but I try to break them up between 20 and 30 minutes. So I'll leave a link in the description for the playlist for this interview, as well as the sequence in which this interview video is. I hope you guys enjoy, so let's just hop right back into it. Let's touch a little bit more on the packaging that you talked about.
Yes.
So you said you got to worry about the labeling, finding a box that's not going to smash too easily.
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit more about like the marketing side of that, like the logo that you might want to put on there? What kind of things are required to be on the box for the labeling? And if there's ever any difference between like a thicker cardboard versus a smaller cardboard, or if you want to actually put the Popeye in something special that's going to help support the box while it's in the, you know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
That's, I think people don't realize, again, like there's a lot that goes into this, especially if you're on a smaller scale. Like a bigger company, they have different departments for this, but it could be just you, or it could be one of three of you.
It out and puts it together for them. Exactly. So great points and great question overall. All those things are very important. And me, like I said, being naturally, intrigued by psychology and marketing, all that stuff is severely important. So my logo is this here. This was not the logo that it started with, enough everybody can see. Chef with the Love Midwestern Cuisine. It's a nice logo. It's, red, yellow, green, African-American colors. But, there's the letters are white. But also the reason why that's more important is very important is because in marketing, when it comes to food, and there's research done by this, you just look simple Google research to tell you the most important colors in marketing when it comes to food that attracts everybody to make them, one, feel hungry, and two, go to that restaurant. The most popular color is red. The most popular color is red, white, yellow, and there's some blues out there, but not as much. So it's red, it's white, it's yellow, then there's blue. Green has been added into the mix for the last 10 to 15 years because of a lot of vegetarian and vegan, the way that we're going with right now. So you see stuff like crisp and green, or what's another place like Starbucks, stuff like that. That perpetuates feeling of being at ease, healthy options and things like that. We see green, that's what we think. When you see red, it makes you hungry. Literally, certain colors that we see triggers a chemical response in the brain. So when it comes to all that, I had to figure out with my logo and make sure that it was particular colors to, one, catch the eye of the potential consumer, and two, make them feel a sense of, oh, that does look good. That does make me feel hungry. So that's how I created the logo. And even the logo that I had before this same color was red, black, and white. Right? The packaging, I have a 7-inch pie tin, and they're 7 inches. 7-inch pie tin is very irregular. You think of pie tin, you don't think about a 9-inch, pie that feeds a family. Or when you think of the store, you buy the pie pies, they're like, I think the 5-inch, or sometimes even a 3. But for the most part, I believe the 5 inches. 7 inches are widely known. I don't know why I chose the 7 inches. I did. Forgive me. I chose the 7 inches because the 5 inches just seemed too small to me. And obviously, I'm not going to give everybody it. I find it, right? Unless I'm like selling them in bulk and going industrial with it. So I went with a 7. I found a 7 and it fits perfectly. And also, I wanted everybody to get the bang for their buck. So I wanted them to feel like what they're paying for this is worth everybody they're eating. Now, when you're a small time entrepreneur, your price is not going to reflect the same prices of that same particular product in the store. So obviously the price is always going to be higher. So, that's why the market is always so egregious for us as small time entrepreneurs and business people. My pie pies are one for $10. You can get one at the store for banquet, especially at Dollar Tree, for $1 or $1.25 now. They raise their prices. And if you want to read calendars, bougie, those might be like $2.50. Well, why go get mine so we can go get one in the store for $1 and $2.50? Well, does Marie Calendars and Banquet have this type of flavors that I have? Is it made from scratch? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Do they captivate? Like, man, this is really good. Is it an actual good flaky crust? Things of that nature you're paying more, but you're also paying for the labor. You're paying for the love that's put into it. You're paying for the manufacturing. You're paying for the logo. You're paying for everything that it took to box it together to potentially ship it. That's what all goes into that price. And my limited edition ones, my soul food Popeyes were 15. So, and that's why I chose the 7-inch. Now, unfortunately, the only thing that I run into, the packaging is great. The tin that I have my pies in is great. But the tops that come with it, because I get a lot of stuff through Amazon Prime and business, the tops are plastic. So they don't stack that well in the freezer with a lot of inventory. I have to be very careful. I have to lay down a piece of boarding and things like that. When it comes to making my actual pie, nothing needs to go in there but the crust and the filling. And then I have the plastic top, the pie itself, pie tin folds around the lid so it's snug. Put my logo on it. You put the name of the pie on it. And then on the back, I have heating instructions. And then you also said some of the requirements. Another requirement is nutrition labels. So a couple of quick Google searches there's a lot of good websites out there that doesn't cost anything at all. That you can, just some electric tag or some quick labels on there that says your nutrition labels. You are not required to put down every single thing you put into yours because that's what makes it yours. You also put down the basic ingredients, and you have to do research to know about the actual allergens, the top allergens out there. It used to be 7, but as of this year, the allergens have now been expanded to 9. Well, no allergens all over the world. So you have to list if there's any allergens in there, like dairy, soy, wheat, the basics. And that has to be labeled. No matter if you're doing the product to be manufactured on a large scale, or if you're doing it from a cottage fruit producer standpoint, you have to put those allergens out there because there are people out there when you go to sell in other places, they are looking for those things that if you don't have those proper items, or if the customer notices that may buy something, they might have an allergy and you don't label it. Now you're looking at being sued. Going to court for these type of things to your playing with people's health and they didn't know any better. So you have to do due diligence to check, cross off all those check marks and make sure you have, your T's crossed and your I's dotted when it comes to packaging. All those details matter. And it's not only just about the food itself, but everything that's encased around it. So
I think you touched a little bit on it too, but did you have a mentor that helped you walk through this process?
Absolutely.
So you had to do a lot of this on your own. You had to figure it out.
Myself.
This is what I'm talking about, right? Like, do you think it would have helped you if you were able to just do a quick little search and say, hey, there's a podcast. This guy talked he's telling you no, you got to, every year you got to check on this process. The government's changing this and that. Your local regulations are playing into effect.
Yep.
It's like, these are the kind of things I want to talk about. And you're mentioning it. Listen, you got to watch the whole thing through if you want to get all the deets, right? But that's so important. Like, I didn't know it changed. I didn't even know there were 7. I always knew it was like a few allergens, like 3 or something, because usually it's black and bold, right? Or something like that. But how would you know that it changed unless you actively look for that to make sure that you're covering your butt, like you just said?
And if you don't live with any allergies yourself, you're not going to think twice. You're going to, we all have a habit naturally to, when we're cooking for other people or giving people the food, we like to think they eat like we eat. You know what I mean? So you have to cover those things and be like, hey, everybody out there can't eat mushrooms. Everybody out there can't eat peanuts. Everybody out there can't eat gluten. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you got to be wary of that. I have a lot of people who, they don't bother me now because I failed to come through consistently, but I have so many people that wanted my Popeyes who were vegan, who were vegetarian. And I had the vegetarian ones. But it's funny though, because every time I had my batches of vegetarians, wherever I go to go sell that day, they weren't around. But my vegan community wanted some so bad, and the cost of vegan ingredients just to make a large batch is so immensely expensive compared to what I'm already using. And it's already expensive because I'm making pies, which consist of cream, butter, milk, not egg, unless you make a crust from extreme scratch. But all those things have skyrocketed in the last couple of years with a lot of other ingredients and things that we go to the store for naturally since COVID. All those things skyrocketed in price, even though we live in the Midwest, where you can literally get all those same items for the cheapest. They're higher everywhere else in the country because we live in the Midwest. You're always going to get milk, egg, and cheese, and anything dairy cheap. but those prices skyrocketed here. So that tells you if you're paying $3.89 for a gallon of milk now, in California, it really is $7.40 for a gallon of milk. Wild. So, it kind of humbles you, but those things are very expensive. But I did not have a mentor. I didn't get taught these things. I did some Google stuff. You get on Facebook, you join the other entrepreneurships, you kind of spread information, you kind of, ask a couple of questions here and there. The thing I can tell you to do the best is when you get out there, is why it's important to go to markets and go to pop-up shops. When you're doing this, it is so important to network. Go around, talk to the people who are in the same field as you. Obviously, it doesn't have to be the same exact product, but if they're in the food business as well, they got to stand just like you. And if they have the time and say, hey, my name is yada yada, I'm over there, this is what I do, show some support, maybe even buy something from them, talk to them about, if they let you, touch on their brain. A lot of people you'll find out will like to spread and pass on certain information, or at least tell you some of the basics, right? Because everybody ain't so friendly, just being honest. And that you keep those people in your back pocket. And you always make sure, because this is always very important, because 9 times out of 10, those same people who willingly give you the information, they get it from nobody else either. So it's very important that when you find these people, you network with them and you're taking some of this information from them. Not only do you utilize it, but you also make sure that you have something reciprocal to give back to them as well. Somebody that's way older than you may not be looking for that same type of information because they went through the experience already. But if you can give them some support, if you can give them some marketing, if you can give them something else, this is what's important about the age gap in our generations, especially from a business standpoint. No matter who you are talking to, there's always an exchange for something. And we have to do a better job of making sure we can exchange something. So even if you're just now new to this, you may not have nothing to offer right now because you're trying to get it from the ground up. But if you can get information from that person, you have nothing to reciprocate for them, maybe offer some time to volunteer and work for their stand. So that will give you more experience to know how things are. It'll give you to understand the POS system, point of sales or selling people. It'll give you to understand customer service, the skills, talking to people. Some people got the gift of gab. If y'all can't tell me talking my butt off, I got the gift of gab. I can sell water to a well. I had that before I started doing business. So if you know that you have certain gifts and talents, it makes it easier to get into business. Everything else, you're going to have to work, grind, hustle to get those skills, to acquire those skills, and to hone them as time goes on. And you can only do that by networking and talking to other people who have already been doing this. So I started with nobody but Facebook, Google searches, talking to people. And there's still a lot more to learn, but there was nobody physically there. And of course, having somebody physically is going to make it so much more easier. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I didn't have nobody in my family with this stuff. So it didn't just spring up out of nowhere. I just knew that a basic 9 to 5, no matter what I do, wasn't the way, for the rest of my life. I want to do something, and especially something that speaks more to my passion. But manufacturing, I know that's the ultimate goal. So that touches on something special. Because not only with manufacturing, you get to flex your entrepreneurial skills, you get to flex your financial literacy, you get to flex your passion at the same time, and you get to flex your marketing knowledge. That all comes with manufacturing because you got your product, you got how it looks, you got how it ships, you got the money aspect, all that's fused into one. So it's the perfect gateway for your end goal when it comes to food, at least.
Absolutely. And you touched a little bit on some of the tools you need, but to clarify, what are some of the more important or most important tools that you've been utilizing recently to really kind of get yourself off the ground?
So the tools that I use is, I'm very simple. My marketing used to be really good. I've got busier over life, especially with my 8-month-old son. But, I use Squarespace for everything from my point of sales, all the way down to, swiping a card. All my inventory is in there. Everything is listed. You can make a website for free when you're using Square, all those things. I used to use Canva a lot, not as much because I don't always need to make flyers all the time. But Canva is really good for people with business. Square is really good. You could use PayPal, you could use Venmo, you could use Cash App, all those things. I like to use things that are very safe and secure that's attached to a bank because I have a business account separate from my regular bank accounts, which is also very important. So you don't allocate any funds or mix anything up. Because like I said, I touched on it a little bit before, sales tax is very important. And sales tax in St. Paul is different from sales tax in Minneapolis. So all that's important when you're selling products everywhere. You always have to add sales tax, because if you don't, what's going to happen is when it's time for tax season next year, you're going to have to go back and look at everything you sold, get the total amount, take away, times it by the sales tax that you never put into your individual items, and then pay that to the business bureau. And that's mandatory. So if you add all that to your products throughout the year, when it's time for tax season, you don't have to owe them anything because you've already been paying that. So I just had to put that out, that pregame out there. And oh man, I lost my train of thought.
Squarespace is great.
Squarespace is great. Canva, PayPal has a business account. They're pretty good because you can make invoices off of those if you're doing things like catering and that nature. Venmo is okay, but there's nothing wrong with Venmo. It's just the lesser of the most popular, but it's a nice backup because some people have Venmo if they don't have anything else. So I keep it around. And I don't personally do Cash App because a lot of scamming going around the first couple of years, and I got hit a couple of times. So I was like, I'm never doing Cash App again. But to each his own. I know a lot of people out there, there's entrepreneurs that do Cash App. But those are some of the technological things that I use as far as for my business. That's pretty much it off the top of my head that I can really think about.
Okay. Does any of the tools you use, so there's I like to say there's the hidden cost of business, right? Mm-hmm. It sounds like the Squarespace is a hidden cost. Keeping the products in, so do you track the electricity bill that comes in with that? Or is it kind of like, it's all kind of mixed in there? But that's a business expense if you do it right though, right?
If you do it right, everything you use is a business expense, you can write it off. I suck.
I'll put it out there because I have had ample time to sit up there and put together business expenses and write it off. I still haven't practiced it yet. But I know that when I do, I can. And I don't remember off the top of my head how far you can go back, but you can go back to a certain amount of time to write off certain things you used already. And it's not just things that you're physically using. You can go eat lunch somewhere and talk about, have a conversation with somebody for a half hour. This podcast can be used as a business write-off, because you're talking about the business and all aspects of the business. So I could write this off if it costs anything. I could have lunch with somebody for 30 minutes at a cafe and write off that check and put it towards the business expenses because it was about the business. But know that everything can be written off. There is a certain budget limit that can be written off a year. So that's important.
What about some of the products you have to buy?
The products I have to buy. Okay, so the products I have to buy, I go to Restaurant Depot for my products. I may go to Sam's Club. Every once in a while, I may go to a smaller store for something that's intricate that I don't need a copious amount of. But for the most part, those are my two largest chains that I go to for my products. It's Restaurant Depot, which is for businesses, and now it's open to the public as of 2020. But and then Sam's Club as well. So that's what I use for my products because I don't use it's not a whole lot of products I need for my Popeyes, or even with my 10 different flavors. It's not a ton of products that I need. It's just about making a certain amount of volumes. And that's what I use. That's what I use. Food is a little bit different, so a lot of this stuff is physical. There's not too much technological that comes with it besides your website and things like that. But as far as hidden costs, if you're not using Squarespace, you may be using Shopify. You may be using a different type of website out there. That's the website cost that you have to use to keep your website running. It would be beneficial to constantly use that website all the time to boost all your sales as much as possible because you're paying for that website. Nobody else what you are doing. That be hitting the cost. If 1 week, I use a lot of milk in my Popeyes as a base, right? If 1 week milk was $2.19 and then next week it jumped up to $4.06, do you sit up here and increase the cost slightly of your products that week because all your other ingredients increased for like the last couple of weeks? Or do you let it be and just deal with it? Those are executive decisions you have to make as a entrepreneur when you're talking about your products. And that's important because when people are looking for your product and you created a fan base and they like your products, they want it. Customers love consistency. You do not want to go to a drive-thru at McDonald's and get your McDouble that you always get for $1.89. And Next month, it bumped up to $269 here. You still might buy it at the time, but you're like, hey, what happened to the price? You know what I mean? So people are going to notice you want something to be consistent. And if you get to that crossroads where you have to increase the price of your products, you definitely want to let your fan base know via email, via Square, whatever you choose to do, and let them know, hey, the price has increased due to these days going on. You know, thank you for your time, your support, and dedication. Just letting you be aware that there's a slight increase in price. You have to do that in order to make a profit in business.
Business is irrelevant if you're not making enough. If you're breaking even, it's not worth it because you're putting a lot of labor and time just to break even. Although it's regular within the first 5 years of business, you need to get to a point where you're actually profiting. That means everything that you're pouring into it, you need to be making double, at least triple amount coming in versus what you put out. That's the ultimate goal. Now, the time it takes to get there, is a whole other story. But those are some of the hidden costs, man. It can be quite a challenge because finances and everything could be rocky. One day is great, another day, you had no sales. That's just the cost of business. So, and with food, like I tell people, it's one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing to be an entrepreneur about when it comes to food, because food is everywhere.
That's right.
So your competition, no matter what you're doing that's customized, no matter what you're doing, there's food everywhere. So people are going to be like, we'll make sure your item's so special and yada, yada, yada. So stay true to your customers, stay true to your fan base, and stay true to people that support you. Find your target audience, know your target audience. Don't force yourself to sell the products to a group of people that's not interested, that's not looking for that type of product, especially in food, because our food can be wasted so very much easily. So every day I have an event. Every time I have an event, I struggle so much because I have to sit there and I have to guess how much traffic I'm going to get this day based on the type of event it is, based on where it's environmentally located, based on the weather that day. All that stuff plays a factor. And so where I'm going to get a lot of sales that day, based if I get there on time, all that plays a factor. And so what products I put out that day, how much, and for what price. I've had a lot of success. I've had days where I was incredibly unsuccessful. And because I don't have a commercial kitchen restaurant, I can't go back and put some of that stuff away in the freezer. It has to go. So whether I'm giving it to the homeless, whether I'm tossing it, food is very, very fragile. You have to spend so much time doing your best trying to perfect it. You're still going to mess up because that's life, but it has to be minimal waste if you won't want to throw away as much money, especially if you don't come from money.
Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. We really appreciate it. A special shout out to Green Screen Studios here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Listen, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can direct message us either on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's always going to be chocolate_espresso_. Listen, we really appreciate you. I said it once, I said it twice. I'm going to say it a billion times if that's what it takes. If you guys want to reach out to us, especially if you know anyone or if maybe you want to be interviewed about your job, the goal is to really teach a lot of youth about the different opportunities that are available to them. College is great. It's always going to be great. Not everybody wants to go to college, or maybe college just isn't on the table right now. So I want to push as much content that pertains to jobs and jobs that may or may not require college. Maybe you just need to network. Maybe you just got to put a lot of work into the beginning as an entry-level person. But, I really look forward to producing as many interviews as I can and posting it. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.